Thanks for staying with us. Welcome back. There are growing concerns about a steep increase of the gas price announced by Sasol Gas. The National Energy Regulator of South Africa says it's engaging with a number of organizations on the concerns over the price increases. The Industrial Gas Users Association of Southern Africa, that represents companies such as steelmaker ArcelorMittal and packaging company Nampak, is among those challenging the price increase. For more on the story, I'm now joined by Nomfundo Maseti, who is the regulator member for piped gas at Nersa. Very good afternoon to you. Thank you for your time. Concerns have been raised by multiple stakeholders here about this excessive gas price increase. Talk to us about your immediate reaction.
Good afternoon. Are you talking to me?
Yes. I'd just like to get a sense of your immediate reaction as these concerns have been raised by multiple stakeholders. What do you have to say?
Thank you for having me. Yes, there are concerns that are raised by various stakeholders with NERSA with regards to the announcements made by one of the licensees, Sasol Gas in this case, stating that the price of gas will increase up to 133 rands per gigajoule. Just to explain that the gas that we're talking about is not LPG gas. I think I need to clarify that. It is gas that is transported by pipeline, and for household, it will be gas pipes that is transported to areas such as Centurion in Pretoria and some areas in Johannesburg. So the concerns that are raised, I think they are quite valid, given the fact that we also did not expect that there will be such steep increase on the price of gas. The increase ranges around 96% increase, and we have already issued a media statement indicating that we have never approved that price. And the regulator is the only body that has jurisdiction over approval of maximum prices of gas in South Africa. So there cannot be a situation where a licensee can decide to calculate its own price and require the customers of the industry to then pay that particular price.
So you didn't expect such an increase, and of course it speaks to the pricing methodology that was used here without you approving or expecting. What happens now? Because the increase is drastic, and of course it's an increase that affects already strained households who are facing increases in the price of electricity, for instance, and other costs.
Let me put the context here to say why I'm stating that we did not expect that steep increase. It is because the maximum price that was approved by NERSA last year was 68 rands 39. Now, due to the unprecedented demand shocks and other factors internationally, of which factors do not affect us, specifically with regards to the gas that we get from Mozambique. Unfortunately, those factors then impact on the South African gas price simply because we use the international hub prices as our competitive benchmark. All the years, the prices have been very good and competitive until these demand shocks and the tight supply internationally. Now we are trying to, from our side, we're trying to consider measures that we can take as NERSA to prevent such steep increases from implemented in South Africa, because there will be no justification for those increases. They are not reflective of cost, first of all, and we do have a section in the methodology that seeks to make an assessment of rational outcomes, even when we have approved the price or even prior to us approving the price. So that price of 68 rand, we're quite comfortable that that will be the competitive price. And our law does require of us to come up with a methodology that will ensure that we come up with a competitive price. Hence, we used a competitive benchmark.
Do you think that this jump in price is enough to say that licensees are now exploiting the South African market?
Well, one could say that because if such an increase is not justified by cost, definitely one is exploiting the situation because the market conditions changed drastically. And what that tells you is that if market conditions change drastically, it means even the parameters within which we considered that price last year, such parameters and assumptions are not practical anymore. They did not materialize. So it will require a situation where one then uses a new set of facts, come to the regulator, rather than announcing a price in an industry that is regulated, because 133 is not a price that the energy regulator has approved. So we will have to follow due process. We've got our Section 10 of the National Energy Regulator Act of 2004 requires that we follow a statutory consultations, especially if such a steep increase is going to affect various stakeholders. And also there's a purge process. So there cannot be a situation where a licensee can decide on its own when it doesn't have such powers and not allow the energy regulator to give effect to its legal mandate.
You're outraged by this increase, and as I'm looking here at some reports, it says that in response to questions, Sasol spokesperson said that its gas business had informed NERSA and customers that the price of piped gas would increase to 133-34 rand, and that, now perhaps my question to you would then be, did you receive written communication prior to this, irrespective of your previous communication?
The letter from Sasol, I believe it was sent in May of 2022, following its engagements with the officials of NERSA at our level. We wouldn't engage as to what the decision of the regulator is, because the decision of the regulator must be taken by the majority of its sitting members. So I would not have been party to those discussions that were held. But irrespective of the fact that they sent communication or correspondence to NERSA, the fact of the matter is that they cannot just send communication. Surely they acknowledge from their side that that price of 273, even the 133, is not reasonable. It will be a price where they want to see what is the sweet spot from coming down or from that 273. That is an international price that has nothing to do with them. It has to do with them only because it would have said it's a competitive benchmark, but that 273 is no longer competitive because of the demand shocks. And those demand shocks, they have been sustained for almost a year. And you can never say that when demand shocks, they take this long and you still regard the price as competitive.
Yes.
It calls, therefore, on the licensee to work with the regulator and also be considerate to the industry, and therefore come to the regulator to give us an opportunity, bring new sets of facts that are triggered by the market conditions, so that then we can be in a position to take a new decision. If not...
So pardon me, just to interrupt you for the sake of time there. So Sasol Gas informed you in May of 2022 about this decision. There's been about 2 months in between to perhaps do the back and forth and come to a conclusion before the media or perhaps have word of it. And, it seems no decision has still been made within the space that allowed NERSA to perhaps engage with Sasol Gas. What has happened within that 2-month frame from you receiving the letter in May?
Let me clarify one thing that you need to understand. Sasol knows the format in which it needs to engage the regulator. It is not a format of just saying to the regulator, we believe because there are changes internationally we can do our own thing and look at the rationality and play around the methodology, and therefore we come to our own calculation, and therefore this must be the calculation. No, it doesn't work like that, because they will be giving themselves powers that they don't have. But to come and respond to your question specifically, we cannot make a decision of confirmation of the price. The format in which it must come to us, it must be an application. Sasol was informed verbally in several engagements with the NERSA officials that it needs to follow due process. It cannot just come and say, take it as a compliance matter. In its letter, it comes as a compliance matter. What are you complying with? When the assumptions and projections did not materialize. And also admitting that the market data that would have informed an adjustment was not available to the regulator, because we make forward-looking decisions based on what is before us. Now, if those market circumstances change significantly, such that now from a price of 68 Rand, you go to a price of 273, surely that must also, say to Sasol, this cannot be justifiable. Interestingly, they quoted that.
Is the price, is the price increase effective? As you and I speak now, is the price effective? Is the increase already starting to pinch on consumers and households?
My information is that it hasn't, because this is information that was given to us last week only.
Okay, thank you so much for your time. We're going to have to leave it there for now. Nomfundo Maseti of Nersa, they're speaking to the gas conversation, the increases, and Nersa saying that more needs to be done and processes weren't followed.